My husband's family literally spent months turning my kids against me, and I'm just now realizing how planned and calculated this whole thing was. So here's the situation. I work in project management, and I'm the only one bringing in steady money right now because Warren broke his leg badly in January when he slipped on ice outside our house. He's been out of work for 4 months now and keeps trying these bullshit internet schemes to make money from home. You know the type. Cryptocurrency trading, dropshipping, affiliate marketing garbage that never works out. He spends hours watching YouTube videos from these so-called gurus who look like they're barely 16 years old, promising anyone can make 6 figures from their laptop. I keep telling him to focus on physical therapy so he can get back to his real job, but he's convinced he's going to strike it rich online following advice from teenagers. Meanwhile, I'm the one working my ass off to keep our family afloat. I'm the one making sure we can pay the mortgage, buy groceries, pay for Eva's dance classes and Tobias's preschool, put money away for their college funds. I'm the one thinking about their future while Warren's playing around on his laptop convinced he's going to be the next internet millionaire. And his parents have hated me from day one, especially his mother, Virginia. They never thought I was good enough for their precious boy, and they've been looking for ways to break us up since we got married. When Warren got hurt and I had to pick up extra projects at work to cover his lost income, they saw their opportunity. Last month, I had to do this 5-day business trip, hitting 3 different cities because we desperately needed the commission, and I'm literally the only person in our house earning real money right now. Virginia offered to help with the kids while I was gone, and I thought finally, maybe she's going to be supportive instead of constantly criticizing everything I do. Wrong. So wrong. I get home Friday evening and my 7-year-old daughter Eva literally backs away from me when I try to hug her. She looks at me and says, "Grandma Virginia told me you're not my real mommy anymore because real mommies don't abandon their children for money. We have to call you Nina now, because that's what we call women who choose strangers over their own babies." I'm standing there like, WTF did my mother-in-law do to my child? My own daughter is calling me by my first name and telling me I'm not her mother because I went to work to keep food on our table and a roof over our heads. Then Tobias starts having a complete meltdown when I try to pick him up, screaming and crying. "Don't leave us again, Nina. Don't go make money for strangers. Grandma said you might decide you like your job more than us and never come home." This is a kid who used to run to me when I got home from the grocery store. Now he's terrified I'm going to abandon them because I have a job that pays for everything they need. Virginia is standing right there with this evil, satisfied smile watching her work. She tells Eva, "Well, sweetie, show Nina what we practiced about women who care more about paychecks than their children." Eva recites like she's been rehearsing, "Real mothers get their happiness from their babies. They don't need to travel to other cities to feel important about themselves." I'm trying not to completely lose my shit in front of the kids, but inside, I'm raging. This woman spent 5 days reprogramming my children to think their mother doesn't love them because I work to support them. She looks at me and says, "The children have been asking me all week why you need to make money when you should be happy just being their mommy." I had to explain that some women just aren't satisfied with motherhood. Then Virginia drops the real bomb. She leans in closer and says, "You know, Nina, all these business trips, staying in hotels in different cities, I can't help but wonder what you're really doing out there. Just last month, our neighbor found out his fiancé was running around with someone else while he was working hard to provide for their future. Women who are constantly traveling, well, it makes people think things." She continues with this sanctimonious tone. "Women should be home, creating a warm, loving environment for their families, not gallivanting around the country pretending it's for work. A wife's place is with her husband and children, not in hotel rooms with God knows who." I literally start laughing. Like full-on laughing because this is so absolutely insane I can't even process it. I look at this woman and say, "Virginia, are you actually suggesting I'm having an affair? Are you seriously accusing me of cheating while I'm working my ass off to pay our bills because your son has made exactly $20 from his internet schemes in 4 months?" She gets all huffy and defensive, but I keep going. "How exactly do you think we should pay the mortgage, Virginia? How do you think Eva's dance classes get paid for? How do you think we buy groceries? With Warren's $20 cryptocurrency earnings? Should I quit working so we can all move in with you when we lose the house?" Virginia's face turns red and she snaps, "A good wife finds ways to support her husband without running off to other cities. There are plenty of jobs that don't require overnight travel. You choose to take these trips, which makes everyone wonder what's really going on." I'm still laughing because the audacity is unbelievable. This woman thinks I should give up the career that's literally keeping our family afloat because she's decided my business trips must be cover for cheating, while her son sits at home trying to get rich quick from his laptop. Warren hobbles in on his crutches, and instead of being horrified at what his mother did to our children, he's nodding along like this makes perfect sense. He tells me, "Maybe you should listen to what the kids are saying. Nina, they need stability right now, and you being gone all the time is confusing them. They keep asking me why mommy cares more about work than staying home with her family." His sister Liza shows up. Apparently this was some kind of family intervention I wasn't invited to plan. She starts lecturing me about how children need their mothers present, not just providing money. She says Eva and Tobias have been crying to Virginia about how they never know when I'm going to disappear again for work and how scared they are that I'm going to choose my career over them permanently. Warren is standing there agreeing with all of this bullshit. He tells me, "Maybe it's time to admit that mom is better at taking care of them than you are. At least she's here for breakfast and dinner and bedtime stories every single day. Maybe we should consider letting her have more say in how they're raised since she's actually present for their lives." I'm staring at my husband suggesting his mother should raise our children because I have to work to support his unemployed ass. Because I'm the one making sure Eva and Tobias have everything they need while he's at home playing internet entrepreneur. But somehow I'm the bad mother because I leave the house to earn money. Liza keeps piling on the guilt, telling me how Virginia has been explaining to the kids that mothers who really love their children don't need to travel for work. They find ways to make money from home so they never have to leave their babies. She says Eva asked Virginia why her mommy needs a job when daddy is supposed to take care of the family, and Virginia had to explain that some families are backwards and the mommy has to work because the daddy can't. The worst part is finding out this has been going on for months. Every single time I had to work late or travel for business, Virginia was there poisoning my children against me. While I was busting my ass to keep us financially stable, she was telling Eva and Tobias that real mothers don't need careers to feel fulfilled. They get all their happiness from their children. When I was working overtime to cover Warren's lost salary, Virginia was making dinner and explaining to my kids that mothers who work too much are trying to escape their family responsibilities. When I took that weekend project to earn extra money for Eva's summer camp, Virginia told them that mothers who really love their children find ways to spend weekends together, not ways to make more money. Warren admits he's been encouraging this because he thinks I should be home taking care of the family while he figures out his internet business plans. He actually thought turning our children against me was a reasonable way to get me to quit working and stay home. He thought this was helping our family. I found out Virginia had been using every opportunity to undermine me. When I missed Eva's school event because of a client emergency, Virginia was there telling her, "See, sweetie, this is what happens when mommies care more about impressing their bosses than supporting their children's dreams." When Tobias got sick and I had to work from home while taking care of him, Virginia told him, "Real mommies don't do work stuff when their babies need them. They only think about making their babies feel better." She coached them on what to say about our family. Eva was supposed to tell people, "My real mommy is Grandma Virginia because she takes care of us every day. Nina just pays for stuff, but she's never actually here." Tobias was taught to say, "I wish Nina would stay home and play with us instead of always thinking about money and work." I went upstairs to unpack and try to process this nightmare. I needed space to think about how these people were actively sabotaging my children's understanding of why their mother works so hard for them. I threw my suitcase on the bed and started unpacking, just trying to keep my hands busy while my brain processed what just happened downstairs. After I finished unpacking, I grabbed the basket of clean laundry I'd left sitting there before my trip and started putting Warren's clothes away in his dresser drawers. When I was putting away his workout shirts in the bottom drawer, one of the shirts got caught on something and wouldn't lay flat. I reached underneath to see what was in the way and felt the edge of some papers. I pulled out what looked like a single printed email, thinking maybe Warren had been using it as drawer liner or something random. But when I looked at it closer, I realized it was a conversation between Warren and some guy I didn't recognize about working mothers who neglect their families. I stared at it confused, wondering why Warren would print this out and keep it. That's when I started looking more carefully in that drawer and found more papers tucked under his clothes. Photos of Eva and Tobias looking upset, notes in Virginia's handwriting about my work schedule, printed conversations I'd never seen before. It was like they'd been documenting everything about my parenting to build some kind of case against me. There was a list in Virginia's writing of all my business trips, all the times I worked overtime, all the client dinners and late meetings. Next to each entry, she'd written things like demonstrates pattern of choosing career over children and shows lack of maternal priorities. The most disturbing thing was finding conversations between Warren and some guy I didn't know about working mothers who neglect their families and how children suffer when mothers prioritize careers. Warren had been talking to a stranger about our family situation, making it sound like I was never home when I work my ass off to provide for everyone. I took photos of everything and put it back where I found it. I went downstairs and acted normal, made dinner, helped with homework, gave baths, read bedtime stories to children who barely acknowledged me because they'd been taught that working mothers don't deserve their love. But I couldn't stop thinking about those documents and wondering what exactly they were planning to do with all that information about my work schedule and parenting. Why would you collect evidence about someone unless you were planning to use it for something specific? After the kids went to bed, Warren started this conversation about how maybe I should consider whether working is really what's best for our family. He said Virginia had helped him see how much the children suffer when I travel, and maybe it was time to put family before career advancement. He's acting like this whole thing was an intervention to help me see the light instead of a calculated attack on my relationship with my children. Like I should be grateful that his mother convinced our kids I don't love them because I work to support them. I told him I needed to think about everything and went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those documents. First update. Okay, Reddit, I'm back and I'm absolutely shaking with rage right now. What I found out today has me packing our stuff and getting the hell out of here immediately. This isn't just family drama. These people have been threatening my children and planning to destroy my life completely. So yesterday, after I found that folder and confronted Warren about it, I went to bed in the guest room at his parents' house completely exhausted and confused. I woke up this morning to Warren's father standing in the doorway, telling me we needed to have a serious conversation about my future in this family. Warren's dad sits me down and basically tells me that they've been watching me for months, and they've decided I'm not the right kind of woman to raise their grandchildren. He says they've found someone much better suited for Warren, a nice local girl who understands what family means and would never abandon children for a career. I'm sitting there like, WTF are you talking about? And he just calmly explains that Warren deserves a real wife who will take care of him properly, especially now that he's injured and vulnerable. He says they've been documenting everything to build a case that I'm an unfit mother, so they can help Warren get custody when they divorce us. He actually said, "We've been planning this for a while, Nina. We just needed Warren to see the truth about what kind of woman you really are. Now that he understands you'll never change, we can move forward with getting him the life he deserves." I completely lost my shit and started screaming about how this is insane, and how dare they plan to destroy my marriage and steal my children. Warren's father just sits there calm as anything and tells me that good mothers don't scream and carry on like this, which is exactly the kind of behavior they've been documenting to prove I'm unstable. I demanded to know where Warren was, and his father says Warren's out with his future wife getting to know each other better. They met at church, and she's everything a man could want. Stays home, loves children, knows her place in a family, never puts her own needs before others. I'm absolutely losing my mind at this point because these people have been planning to replace me like I'm some piece of furniture they don't like anymore. Warren's father tells me that if I make this difficult, they have plenty of evidence that I neglect my children for work and that the kids would be better off with a stable father and a caring stepmother. That's when I decided I needed to talk to Eva and Tobias immediately. I found them in Virginia's room and asked them to come with me so we could have a private conversation about everything that's been happening. I sat down with both kids and gently asked them to tell me the truth about what Grandma Virginia and Grandpa had been saying while I was away. At first they were scared to talk, but then Eva started crying and the whole truth came out. Eva told me that Virginia had threatened them both, saying that if they didn't help convince me to stop working and stay home, terrible things would happen to our family. Virginia told Eva that bad mothers who work too much lose their children forever, and that if Eva wanted to stay with our family, she needed to help Grandma show me what real mothers do. But the worst part? Virginia threatened that if they didn't cooperate with the plan, they would have to live in the basement and wouldn't get fed regularly because that's what happens to children whose mothers don't love them enough to stay home. She told them that Daddy was going to get a new wife who would take better care of them, but only if they helped prove that I wasn't a good mother. Tobias was sobbing, telling me that he didn't want to call me Nina, but Grandma Virginia said, if he called me Mommy, it meant he wanted me to keep leaving for work and never come back. He said Virginia told him that if he loved me, he would help her teach me to be a better mommy by staying home. Both kids kept saying they love me and they don't want a new mommy. They were just scared because Virginia said if they didn't help her, Daddy might have to give them away to strangers who would treat them even worse. Eva said Virginia showed her pictures on her phone of sad children in foster care and told her that's what happens when mothers choose work over family. I'm holding both my children while they're crying and telling me they were terrified to disobey Virginia because she said she would make sure they never saw me again if they didn't help her. These people had been threatening my babies, making them think they had to betray their own mother or face horrible consequences. Eva told me that Virginia made them practice saying mean things about me, but they hated doing it. She said Virginia would get angry and refuse to give them snacks or let them watch TV if they didn't say the words exactly right. Tobias said he tried to defend me once, and Virginia locked him in a closet for an hour and told him that's what happens to children who don't listen to adults. I asked them what else Virginia had told them, and Eva said Virginia explained that Daddy was going to marry a nice lady who would bake cookies every day and never leave for work trips. She said this new lady would love them more than I do, because she wouldn't care about anything except taking care of them and Daddy. Tobias said Warren had shown them photos of this woman and told them she was excited to be their new mommy. Warren actually told my 4-year-old son that this stranger would be a better mother, because she understands that children need mommies who stay home and take care of them properly. Both kids were terrified that if they told me the truth, Virginia would carry out her threats to separate our family permanently. They thought they were protecting us by going along with her plan, not realizing that the plan was to destroy our family anyway. After talking to Eva and Tobias, I immediately started packing all our belongings. I'm not spending another night in this house with people who threatened my children and have been planning to steal them from me. We're going back to our apartment that I pay for every month, where nobody can threaten my kids or manipulate them into betraying their own mother. While I was packing, Virginia came in acting all innocent, asking what I was doing. I told her exactly what Eva and Tobias had told me about her threats, and she had the audacity to say she was just trying to help them understand the consequences of having a selfish mother. Virginia actually said, if you were a better mother, they wouldn't need to worry about being abandoned or neglected. I was just preparing them for reality, that working mothers often lose their children because they can't provide proper care and attention. I told her she's sick for threatening children, and she says children need to understand truth, Nina, and the truth is that mothers who prioritize careers over family often end up losing both. I was just helping them prepare for what happens when mothers make the wrong choices. That's when Warren came back with this woman, his apparent replacement wife. She's exactly what you'd expect, all sweet and submissive acting, talking about how much she loves children and how wonderful it must be to be home with them all day. She actually said to me, I can't imagine choosing work over these beautiful babies. Family should always come first, don't you think? Warren introduces her as someone who really understands what children need and how important it is for mothers to be present and available. He says she's been helping him see that there are women out there who would never put career advancement over family stability. I looked at this woman and said, so you're the one they picked to replace me after they steal my children? And she has the nerve to say, oh no, I'm just here to support Warren through this difficult time while he figures out what's best for his family. Warren jumps in saying I'm being dramatic and that nobody's stealing anything. They're just trying to help me see that the children need stability and consistency. He says this woman has shown him what a supportive partner looks like, someone who puts family first instead of chasing career success. I grabbed my kids and our suitcases and told them we're leaving immediately. Warren tried to stop me saying I can't just take the children when we haven't resolved anything, but I told him there's nothing to resolve. His family threatened our children and planned to replace me. There's no coming back from that. Virginia followed us to the car yelling about how I'm proving their point, that I'm unstable and impulsive and this is exactly why the children need better supervision. She actually screamed at me in front of the neighbors that I'm destroying the children's lives by taking them away from people who actually care about their well-being. Warren's father came out and very calmly told me that this behavior was exactly what they expected and that it would be documented along with everything else. He said I was making their case for them by acting erratically and putting my own emotions before what's best for the children. I'm driving back to our apartment now with both kids in the back seat, finally acting normal again, telling me they love me and they're sorry they said those mean things. Eva keeps saying she didn't want to hurt my feelings, but she was scared of what Virginia would do if she didn't cooperate. Tobias asked me if the mean lady is really going to be his new mommy, and I told him absolutely not, that nobody is ever going to replace me as his mother. Both kids seem so relieved to be away from Warren's parents and that threatening environment. But now I'm terrified because I realize this goes so much deeper than just disapproving in-laws. These people have been planning for months to destroy my life, steal my children, and replace me with someone they chose. They've been building a legal case against me while threatening my kids into compliance. The fact that Warren went along with this, that he was literally courting my replacement while I was working to support our family, shows me that there's no saving this marriage. But I'm scared about what they might do next now that their plan has been exposed. I need to figure out how to protect my children from these people and prove that everything they've documented was based on lies and coercion. Because if they really have been building a custody case, this is just the beginning of the fight. Second update. So we got back to our apartment and I thought maybe we'd finally have some peace. Wrong. At 6 a.m. my phone starts ringing nonstop. It's my parents absolutely panicking because Warren's family called them claiming I had kidnapped Eva and Tobias and disappeared. My mom is crying on the phone asking where we are and if we're safe, saying Warren's father called them at midnight telling them I'd had some kind of breakdown and stolen the children. He told my parents that I'd threatened Virginia and taken the kids in the middle of the night without telling anyone where I was going. I'm trying to explain to my parents that we just came home to our apartment, but Warren's family had convinced them I'd completely vanished with the children. My dad says Warren's father told them I might be dangerous and that nobody knew where we were. While I'm on the phone with my parents, Warren shows up at my door with his father at 8 a.m., pounding and yelling about how they've been searching for us all night. I look through the peephole and see them both acting like concerned family members looking for missing children. Warren starts shouting, "Nina, we've been looking everywhere for you and the kids. Everyone's been worried sick about where you went." His father yells that my parents have been calling them all night asking if we'd been found yet. I yell back through the door that they're liars who called my parents with fake stories, and that they're not coming into my apartment. Warren keeps pounding, saying I need to let them see that Eva and Tobias are safe so they can call off the search. I tell them to get off my property and that if they don't leave immediately, I'm calling the police. Warren's father shouts that they have every right to see their grandchildren and that keeping them away is just proving I'm unstable. Warren yells that my own parents want to make sure we're okay and that I'm being irrational by refusing to let family members see the children. I scream back that they lied to my parents and made them panic for no reason except to make me look bad. The pounding and yelling goes on for 20 minutes with them demanding to come in and me refusing to open the door. Finally, I call the police and tell them there are people harassing me and my children at our home and refusing to leave when asked. When the cops show up, Warren and his father immediately switch to playing the concerned family members. They tell the officers that I took the children unexpectedly and that everyone's been worried about our safety. Warren says he just wants to make sure his kids are okay and that I've been acting strangely lately. The police ask me to step outside to talk, and I explain that these people have been manipulating my children and that I brought my kids home to our own apartment where we all normally live. I show them my lease with my name on it and explain that Warren and the kids were just staying at his parents' house temporarily while I was on my business trip. We were all supposed to come back here together, but after what I discovered about their threats to my children, I brought the kids home without him. One officer asks Warren and his father to explain why they think I kidnapped the children, and Warren's father says I took them in the middle of the night after making wild accusations against the family. He says they were just staying at their house to help with childcare, and I suddenly became hostile and left without telling anyone where I was going. Warren tells the police that he's concerned about my mental state, and that taking the children without notice after the confrontation we had shows I'm not thinking clearly. He says he just wants to make sure Eva and Tobias are safe, and that I'm getting help if I need it. I tell the officers that Warren's family has been threatening my children and trying to turn them against me, and that I have every right to bring my kids home to our apartment. The police say that since there's no custody order and I'm the children's mother, I haven't done anything illegal by bringing them home. Warren gets angry and tells the officers that this proves I'm being irrational, that I'm calling normal family concern threatening, and that I won't even let grandparents see their grandchildren. His father backs him up, saying my behavior is erratic and concerning. The officers tell Warren and his father that they need to leave since I've asked them to, and it's my apartment. Warren argues that he has rights as the father, but the police explain that without a custody order, I don't have to let him in if I don't want to. After the police make them leave, I call my parents back and explain exactly what happened, that Warren's family lied to them about me kidnapping the kids just to create panic and make me look unstable. My parents are confused because Warren's father had sounded so genuinely concerned. My mom says Warren's father told her I'd been acting paranoid and making accusations against Virginia, and that he was worried I might hurt myself or the children. My dad says they were up all night thinking something terrible had happened to us. I explained to my parents about the threats to Eva and Tobias, about finding the folder documenting my parenting, about Warren having a replacement wife lined up. My parents are shocked, but they say they believe me and they're sorry Warren's family manipulated them. Monday morning, I get a call from Eva's school saying that Warren had contacted them asking about picking her up early for a family emergency. I immediately call the school and tell them that Warren is not authorized to pick up my daughter, and that if he shows up, they need to call me immediately. The school secretary says Warren had called claiming there was a medical emergency with his father, and that he needed to get Eva quickly. I tell them there's no emergency, and that this is part of a custody dispute, and that only I am authorized to pick up my children. An hour later, I get another call from Tobias's daycare saying that Virginia had shown up claiming she was picking him up for a doctor's appointment that I had supposedly arranged. The daycare director says Virginia had seemed upset when they told her she wasn't on the authorized pickup list. I drive to both the school and daycare to personally speak with the staff and make it crystal clear that Warren, Virginia, Warren's father, and this woman, Veronica, are not allowed to pick up or visit my children. I provide photos of all of them and tell the staff to call police if any of them show up. The school principal asks if I want to file a report about the attempted unauthorized pickup, and I tell her absolutely yes. She says they take these situations seriously and they'll document everything in case it becomes a legal matter. That afternoon, Warren starts texting me demanding to know why I blocked him from picking up the children and accusing me of using them as weapons in our dispute. He says Eva was expecting to see him and that I'm hurting her by keeping her father away. I text back that he lied to the school about a family emergency to try to take our daughter. and that this is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior I'm protecting the kids from. Warren texts back saying he had every right as their father to see them, and that I'm being vindictive. Warren's texts get more aggressive, saying that keeping the children away from their father and grandparents is emotional abuse, and that he's documenting all of this. He says I'm proving that I'm an unfit mother who uses children to hurt people. I screenshot every text and save them all because I can see exactly what he's doing, trying to make it look like I'm the one keeping children away from loving family members instead of protecting them from manipulative people. Tuesday morning, I wake up to find that someone had been at my apartment building overnight. The building manager calls me to say that Warren's father had been there at 5 a.m. asking for a key to my apartment, claiming there was a family emergency and he needed to check on his grandchildren. The manager says Warren's father seemed very concerned and had identification showing he was related to my kids, but building policy doesn't allow anyone except tenants to have keys even in emergencies. He wanted to know if I was okay and if there really was an emergency. I tell the building manager that there's no emergency and that Warren's family is trying to gain access to my apartment without permission. I ask him to add notes to my file that these people are not allowed in the building and to call me immediately if any of them show up again. The manager says he'll add security notes and suggests I might want to change my locks since Warren used to live there and might still have a key. I realize I never thought about Warren still having access to our apartment, and I immediately call a locksmith to change all the locks. While waiting for the locksmith, I start packing up Warren's remaining belongings so I can drop them off at his parents' house later. I'm emptying out his sock drawer when I feel something hard at the bottom, his old phone that he stopped using after he cracked the screen last winter. The phone was completely dead and I couldn't find his charger anywhere in the apartment. Eva and Tobias kept asking if they could watch YouTube videos while I cleaned, but we didn't have a charger that fit Warren's old phone. I ended up knocking on my neighbor's door to ask if I could borrow a compatible charging cable for a couple hours. When I finally got the phone charged and turned it on, it immediately started buzzing with dozens of notifications. Warren had never bothered to log out of his messaging apps when he switched phones, so all his recent texts and conversations were still coming through to this device even though he wasn't actively using it. That's when I started scrolling through and saw all the messages between him and his father going back months. I see messages between Warren and his father going back to February, right after Warren's accident. His dad is asking Warren if he thinks this injury might be the perfect opportunity to get me to quit traveling for work and focus on being a proper wife and mother. Warren responds saying he's been thinking the same thing, that maybe if the kids get used to me being gone and see how much better things are when Virginia helps out, I'll realize I need to choose between career and family. There are messages from March where Warren tells his father that Virginia thinks the kids are getting too attached to me being the primary breadwinner, and that it's confusing their understanding of family roles. Warren's father suggests they should document how much better the children do when I'm not around. In April, there are texts where Warren is complaining to his father about how I seem to enjoy my work trips too much and come back energized instead of guilty about leaving. His father responds that this proves I don't have proper maternal instincts and that the children are noticing. The messages get worse in early May when Warren tells his father that he met a nice woman who really understands what families need. His father responds saying maybe Warren should spend time getting to know what a supportive wife looks like compared to what he has now. I'm scrolling through weeks of messages where Warren and his father are basically planning to make my life difficult while I'm working to support everyone. They talk about how to make the kids more dependent on Virginia, how to point out every work event I attend, how to make me feel guilty for traveling. There are messages from just 3 weeks ago where Warren tells his father that this woman from church thinks children suffer real emotional damage when mothers prioritize careers over presence. His father responds that they should start documenting specific examples of how my work schedule affects Eva and Tobias. The most recent messages are from the week before my last business trip, where Warren's father suggests that if I react badly to their concerns about my parenting, that reaction itself would prove they're right about me being unfit for custody. I realize they've been planning this whole campaign for months, not just since I got back from my trip. They've been working to turn the children against me and build a case that I'm a bad mother, all while I've been working to keep us financially stable. I'm taking photos of the message threads with my phone when Eva comes into the room asking what I'm doing. I put the phone away and sit down with her to ask if anyone had been asking her questions about how she feels when mommy goes to work. Eva tells me that Virginia had been asking her lots of questions about whether she missed me when I traveled, and whether she wished I would stay home more. She says Virginia would ask her the same questions over and over until Eva said she felt sad about me leaving. Tobias comes in, and when I ask him the same thing, he says Grandpa had been asking him if he thought mommy loved her job more than she loved him. Tobias says he always told him no, but Grandpa kept asking until Tobias got confused about what the right answer was supposed to be. Then Eva gets quiet and says Virginia told her that children whose mommies work too much sometimes have to go live with other families who can take better care of them. She says Virginia showed her pictures on her phone of kids who looked really sad and said, "That's what happens when mommies choose work over their babies." Tobias starts crying and tells me that when he said he wanted mommy to come home from work trips, Virginia said good boys who love their mommies help them understand what's important. But when he said he missed me but understood I had to work, Virginia got mad and wouldn't let him have snacks for the rest of the day. Eva says Virginia told her that if she really loved our family, she would help Grandma teach me to be a better mother by telling me how sad she gets when I leave. Virginia said families stay together when everyone helps each other learn the right way to act. Tobias tells me that one time when he said he was proud of mommy for working hard, Virginia put him in the closet in the hallway and told him to think about whether he wanted to help his family or hurt it. He says he was scared in the dark, and Virginia left him there until he promised to remember that good children want their mommies home with them. Both kids start crying, and Eva says she didn't want to say those mean things to me when I got back from my trip. But Virginia told them that if they didn't help her show me what real families look like, we might all have to live in different houses and only see each other sometimes. Tobias says Virginia told him that children who don't help their parents learn important lessons, sometimes end up in scary places where nobody takes good care of them. He says she showed them pictures of kids in big rooms with lots of beds, and said those children had mommies who worked too much and didn't listen when people tried to help them. I'm holding both my crying children and realizing that Virginia had been terrorizing them while I was working to support our family. I immediately start collecting all the evidence I've found and preparing to take it to a lawyer tomorrow morning. These people have been waging a calculated war against me and my relationship with my children, and I'm done playing defense. Last update, I'm back with what I hope is the final update because I'm done playing games with these people, and I took control of this entire situation. Thank you to everyone who's been following this insanity and giving me advice. You guys helped me realize I needed to stop being defensive and start going on the offensive. So after finding those text messages on Warren's old phone and learning exactly how Virginia had been terrorizing my children, I knew I needed to get Eva and Tobias completely away from this toxic situation while I figured out my next moves. I packed us up that same day and drove to my parents' house, which is about 4 hours away. My dad took one look at Eva and Tobias and could see they were stressed and scared. So he immediately started distracting them with all his old model train sets in the basement and promised to teach them how to build tracks. My mom made their favorite cookies and set up the guest room with all their stuffed animals. I sat down with both my parents and told them everything about Warren's unemployment and internet schemes, about Virginia's threats to the children, about finding Warren's messages planning this whole thing for months, about the replacement wife, about how they'd been coaching my kids to betray me. My parents were absolutely horrified. My dad said he never liked Warren's family, but he had no idea they were capable of manipulating children like this. My mom started crying when I told her about Virginia locking Tobias in the closet and showing them pictures to scare them into compliance. I called both Eva's school and Tobias's daycare to let them know the children would be absent for the rest of the week due to a family emergency. I didn't give details, just said we were dealing with a serious family situation and the kids needed time away. We spent those days just letting the kids decompress and act normal while I researched divorce lawyers and started planning my strategy. Eva and Tobias were laughing and playing for the first time in weeks, not worried about saying the wrong thing or disappointing adults who were using them as weapons. Wednesday morning, I'm in the kitchen making breakfast when I hear cars pulling into my parents' driveway. I look out and see Warren's parents getting out of their car, looking around like they own the place. I immediately tell my parents to keep the kids in the basement with the trains, no matter what happens. Warren's mother, Virginia, starts pounding on my parents' front door, demanding I bring Eva and Tobias out immediately, because they're worried sick about the children being taken away by someone who's clearly having mental problems. Warren's father is yelling that they have rights as grandparents, and that I can't keep running away every time someone tries to help me see reality. My dad answers the door and very calmly tells them they need to leave his property immediately because they're not welcome and they're scaring the children. Virginia immediately starts crying and carrying on about how they just want to make sure their grandchildren are safe from their unstable mother. Warren's father starts lecturing my dad about how I've been acting irrationally and that they're concerned about the children's welfare. He says they've been trying to help me understand that working mothers need to prioritize their families, but I've been making wild accusations instead of listening to people who love me. My dad asks where Warren is and why he's not here himself if he's so concerned about his children. Warren's father gets all proud and puffed up saying Warren is working, trying to provide for his family like a real man should, not running away from problems like some people do. I come to the door and just start laughing, like full-on hysterical laughter because the irony is so insane I can't even handle it. I tell Warren's father that Warren hasn't worked in 4 months and has made exactly $20 from his internet schemes while I've been supporting the entire family. Warren's father gets red in the face and says Warren has been dealing with a serious injury and working hard to find alternative income sources, while his wife abandons the family for business trips. Virginia chimes in that at least Warren understands that family comes before career advancement. I'm still laughing and tell them that their precious Warren has been planning to dump me for months, while courting some church woman, all while I worked overtime to pay for everything they needed. I tell them I found all his text messages planning this whole campaign to steal my children. Virginia gets hysterical and starts screaming that I'm lying and making up stories because I can't handle the truth about being a bad mother. She demands that I bring Eva and Tobias out so they can ask them directly where they want to live and who they want taking care of them. I tell her the children have already been through enough trauma thanks to her threats and manipulation, and there's no way she's getting anywhere near them ever again. Virginia starts sobbing about how she loves those children more than I do, and they need consistency and proper guidance. Warren's father tries to push past my dad to get into the house, saying they have every right to see their grandchildren and that I'm proving how unstable I am by keeping them away from people who love them. My dad steps up and tells him he'll call the police if they don't leave immediately. That's when Virginia really loses it and starts screaming about how Eva and Tobias need them, how the children are probably crying for their real family right now, how I'm destroying their lives by filling their heads with lies about people who only want what's best for them. I tell Virginia that the children are downstairs playing happily with their grandfather's trains and haven't asked about her even once since we got here. I say Eva and Tobias are acting like normal kids for the first time in months because they're not being threatened or coached about what to say. Warren's father demands to know what lies I've been telling the children about their loving grandparents, and I tell him exactly what Eva and Tobias told me. About the closet, about the pictures, about the threats, about being told their mother might abandon them permanently. Both of them start denying everything and claiming the children must have misunderstood normal discipline and guidance. Virginia says she was just trying to help them understand consequences and that children sometimes exaggerate when they're confused. I tell them they're done manipulating my children, and that I have evidence of their months-long plan to destroy my marriage and steal my kids. Warren's father says they were just trying to help Warren see that his wife cares more about her career than her family. Finally, my dad threatens to call the police again and they leave. but not before Virginia screams that this isn't over and that children need real mothers who understand priorities, not career women who abandon their families for money. After they leave, Eva and Tobias come upstairs asking who was yelling. I tell them it was Warren's parents, but that they're gone now and don't need to worry about it. Both kids seem relieved and go back to playing with their trains. That evening, Warren starts calling me nonstop. At first, he's angry, demanding to know why I won't let his parents see their grandchildren and accusing me of using the kids to punish his family. He says I'm being vindictive and cruel by keeping Eva and Tobias away from people who love them. I tell Warren I know about all his text messages with his father planning this whole thing for months. I tell him I know he's been courting his replacement wife while I worked to support his unemployed ass. I tell him I know about the threats to our children and the systematic campaign to turn them against me. Warren tries to deny everything at first, saying I'm misinterpreting normal family conversations and that nobody was trying to replace me or steal the children. He claims his parents were just concerned about my work schedule and wanted to help me be a better mother. I read him some of his own text messages back to him, the ones about documenting my parenting, about getting the kids used to Virginia, about how this injury was the perfect opportunity to make me choose between career and family. Warren goes quiet when he realizes I have actual evidence of his planning. Then Warren switches tactics and starts begging me to come home so we can work things out. He says we can forget about everything that happened and start fresh if I'm willing to compromise on my work schedule. He says his parents were just trying to help and we can set boundaries with them going forward. I start laughing again because this man thinks I'm going to come crawling back after months of betrayal. I tell Warren that while he was planning to replace me and coaching our children to reject me, I was working overtime to keep us financially stable and thinking he was just struggling with his injury. Warren keeps saying he loves me and the children need their father and that families should work together to solve problems instead of running away. He promises that if I come back, we can go to counseling and figure out how to balance my work with family time. I tell Warren that he spent months accusing me of having affairs while I was working to pay our bills, all while he was secretly courting another woman and discussing what their future home would look like. I ask him how many conversations he had with this church woman about being a better wife and mother than I am. Warren gets defensive and says his friendship with Veronica was just about getting advice on family issues. Nothing inappropriate happened. He says she was helping him understand what children need from their parents and how to support me through a difficult time. I tell Warren that his definition of supporting me was planning to steal my children and replace me with someone who would worship him and never question his authority. I say he wanted a wife who would stay home and never travel, never earn more money than him, never challenge his family's manipulation. Warren starts crying and saying he never meant for things to get this bad, that he just wanted me to see how much the children needed me at home. He says his parents pushed him too hard, and maybe they went too far with their concerns about my work schedule. I tell Warren that he doesn't get to blame his parents for months of planned betrayal. I remind him that he was texting his father about documentation and evidence. He was the one talking to lawyers about custody. He was the one courting my replacement while I worked to support our family. Warren begs me not to file for divorce and says we can move away from his parents if that's what it takes. He promises he'll get a real job as soon as his leg heals and that I can keep working if it's that important to me. He says he'll do anything to keep our family together. I tell Warren our family was never together because he was actively working to destroy it for months while lying to my face about loving and supporting me. I say I could never trust him again knowing he's capable of manipulating our children and planning such elaborate betrayal. Warren keeps calling every day for a week, alternating between begging and anger. Sometimes he promises to change everything if I'll just give him another chance. Sometimes he accuses me of being too proud to forgive and work on our marriage like adults should. I finally tell Warren that I filed for divorce, and I'm asking for full custody based on his family's documented threats and manipulation of the children. I tell him my lawyer is very interested in those text messages showing months of planning to prove I'm an unfit mother. Warren completely loses it and starts screaming about how I'm destroying his life and ruining his relationship with his children out of spite. He says I'm being vindictive and using the kids as weapons just like his mother said I would. He says if I'd just listened to his family's concerns and made some changes to my priorities, none of this would have happened. I tell Warren that his idea of me being a better wife was me giving up my career, accepting his family's abuse, and letting them raise my children while I stayed home making cookies. I say he wanted to break me down until I had no choice but to depend on him completely. I told Warren that he made his choice months ago when he started planning to replace me. I said he could have talked to me about any concerns like an adult instead of manipulating our children and building legal cases behind my back. Now I'm living at my parents' house while the divorce proceedings move forward. Eva and Tobias are doing great. They're sleeping through the night, laughing at dinner, playing normal games instead of worrying about saying the wrong thing to adults. My lawyer says I have a very strong case for custody, based on the evidence of threats to the children and Warren's family's systematic manipulation campaign. She says courts take this kind of psychological abuse of children very seriously. I'm actually excited about rebuilding our lives without these toxic people. Eva is starting to call me mommy again without any hesitation. Tobias doesn't flinch when I leave the room. They're both acting like the confident, happy children they were before Warren's family started poisoning them against me. The divorce should be final in a few months, and then we can really start fresh. I'm looking at apartments near my parents so the kids can have their grandparents close by. The grandparents who actually love them instead of using them as weapons. To everyone who followed this story, thank you for helping me realize I deserved better than a husband who would manipulate my own children against me. Sometimes you need outside perspective to see just how fucked up your situation really is. Small update. The divorce is done, we have our own place, and Warren gets supervised visitation twice a month. His parents aren't allowed any contact with the children per the court order. Eva and Tobias are thriving and we're finally living in peace.